The crystal flute of champagne trembled in Vanessa Mitchell's hand as she stared at the documents spread across the mahogany dining table. Outside, Seattle's perpetual rain pelted against floor-to-ceiling windows, casting shifting shadows across the penthouse she'd called home for 7 years. "You're not even going to fight for us?" Daniel's voice was steady, clinical, the same tone he used when closing million-dollar deals at Mitchell Financial Group. Vanessa lifted her gaze to meet his, surprised by the calmness that had settled over her in the past hour. The initial shock had faded, replaced by something colder, more calculated. "You want to divorce me for your 26-year-old assistant. And you expect what? Tears? Begging?" She took a deliberate sip of champagne, the Dom Perignon they'd been saving for their 10th anniversary. "I think we're beyond that, don't you?" Daniel's shoulders relaxed slightly, the tension in his jaw easing. He'd expected hysteria, not this composed woman who now studied the divorce papers with the same intensity she once reserved for corporate acquisition proposals. "I'll sign," Vanessa said, reaching for the Mont Blanc pen he'd given her on their 5th anniversary. "But first, let's discuss what happens to Mitchell Financial Group." The champagne flute in Daniel's hand froze halfway to his lips. "The company isn't part of our marital assets. It was established before we met." "Yes." Vanessa smiled, the kind of smile that didn't reach her eyes. "But not before I saved it from bankruptcy during the 2018 recession. Not before my investment strategies tripled its value." She signed the papers with a flourish, then slid them across the table. "You can have your divorce, Daniel. You can even have your little assistant." Vanessa stood, smoothing the creases from her tailored dress. "But the company? That's where you'll pay." 6 months earlier. Vanessa's heels clicked rhythmically against the polished floor of Mitchell Financial Group's executive suite. At 42, she carried herself with the quiet confidence that came from knowing she'd earned her place in the cutthroat world of finance. Not as Mrs. Daniel Mitchell, but as Vanessa Chen, the strategic genius whose foresight had transformed a struggling family firm into Seattle's premier boutique investment firm. Morning. "Eliza," she greeted Daniel's executive assistant as she passed her desk. "Is he in?" "He's on a call, but mentioned he'd be joining you for the Reynolds meeting at 11. Eliza's smile was professional, but something in her eyes made Vanessa pause. "Everything okay?" "Of course," Eliza replied too quickly. "Oh, and Natalie asked if you could stop by her office when you have a moment." Natalie Graham had joined the firm 3 months ago as Daniel's new assistant. Young, ambitious, with the kind of effortless beauty that made men stare a beat too long. Daniel had insisted on hiring her personally. "I'll drop by after my 9 o'clock, Vanessa said, continuing to her corner office with its panoramic view of Puget Sound. Inside, she found a single red rose on her desk, Daniel's trademark apology for missing their anniversary dinner the night before. The gesture, once endearing, now seemed hollow. This was the 3rd time in 2 months he'd canceled their plans last minute, citing urgent work matters. Her phone buzzed with a text from May, her younger sister and confidant. "Lunch today?" "I have juicy hospital gossip." Vanessa smiled. May, an ER doctor at Seattle Presbyterian, always had stories that put Vanessa's corporate drama into perspective. "Can't today." "Quarterly projections due. Rain check?" She set her phone down and opened her laptop, pushing aside the nagging feeling that something was shifting in her carefully constructed life. The Reynolds meeting went smoothly. It always did when Vanessa led the presentation. Howard Reynolds, a tech magnate looking to diversify his portfolio, had been impressed with her conservative yet innovative approach. "I think we've found our match," Reynolds said, shaking her hand at the conclusion. "Daniel, you've got quite the partner here." Daniel's smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "Vanessa's our secret weapon." After Reynolds left, Daniel lingered in the conference room, loosening his tie. "Good job in there. Thanks." Vanessa gathered her notes. "Sorry about dinner last night. The Taylor account had some unexpected complications. It's fine. We can try that new place this weekend instead." Vanessa tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, a habit from her childhood that surfaced only when she felt uncertain. "I've blocked off Saturday evening. No interruptions this time." Daniel checked his watch. "Sounds good. I've got to run. Meeting with the board in 10 minutes. As he left, Vanessa noticed a smudge of bright lipstick on his collar, a shade too bold for her own collection. Natalie Graham's office was minimalist and meticulously organized, much like the woman herself. She looked up from her computer as Vanessa knocked on the open door. "Vanessa! Thanks for stopping by." Natalie's smile was warm, her voice carrying a slight southern lilt that Vanessa knew some of the male executives found charming. "I wanted to discuss the Chen portfolio rebalancing strategy you mentioned last week." For the next 20 minutes, they dove into investment strategies, with Natalie asking surprisingly insightful questions that revealed a deeper understanding of finance than her assistant role would suggest. "You've done your homework," Vanessa noted approvingly. "I have a master's in finance from Wharton," Natalie replied, "but I'm learning more from watching you and Daniel than I ever did in school." "Why start as an assistant then?" "With your credentials, you could have aimed higher." Natalie's eyes flickered with something unreadable. Sometimes the best way to reach the top is to start close to it. On her way out, Vanessa spotted a familiar leather portfolio on Natalie's desk, one she'd given Daniel last Christmas, monogrammed with his initials. "Daniel left this in my office during our strategy session yesterday evening," Natalie explained, following Vanessa's gaze. "I was going to return it this morning." "Yesterday evening?" Vanessa kept her voice neutral. "I thought he was working on the Taylor account." A flicker of realization crossed Natalie's face. "Oh, this was after that. We didn't finish until quite late." Her smile held a hint of sympathy that made Vanessa's stomach tighten. "He works too hard, doesn't he?" "Saturday dinner never happened." Daniel texted at 5 p.m. with a predictable excuse. "Emergency with the Kingston account." "Don't wait up." Vanessa stared at her phone, then at her reflection in the bedroom mirror. The black dress she'd bought specially for their date hung on her body like a beautiful armor. She pulled out her laptop and logged into the company's secure server. The Kingston account showed no recent activity. No emails, no updates, no emergencies. Acting on impulse, she grabbed her car keys. If Daniel wasn't working, where was he? The answer came in the form of Daniel's Audi, parked outside an upscale apartment building in Capitol Hill, a building where Natalie Graham lived. According to the company directory, Vanessa sat in her car for nearly an hour, watching the entrance, telling herself there could be innocent explanations. At 10:23 p.m., Daniel emerged with Natalie, his hand resting possessively on the small of her back. They kissed in the soft glow of the entrance lights before Daniel walked her to her door. Something cold and clear crystallized inside Vanessa. Not rage, not yet. Just certainty and a strange, detached curiosity about what she would do next. Over the next 3 months, Vanessa became a silent observer of her disintegrating marriage. She documented Daniel's lies, tracked his business trips that coincided with Natalie's absences, and noted how he gradually withdrew his personal items from their home. She also began preparing. First, she reached out to Diane Harper, the best divorce attorney in Seattle, and an old college friend. "The prenup is solid from his perspective," Diane explained over coffee in her office, "but there are vulnerabilities we can exploit regarding the company." "I'm not interested in bleeding him dry," Vanessa clarified. "I just want what I've earned." Diane studied her with professional assessment. "And what do you consider that to be?" "Control of Mitchell Financial Group." Diane's eyebrows rose. "That's ambitious, even for you. The Mitchell family has controlled that company for 3 generations, and it would have died under Daniel's father if I hadn't intervened." Vanessa sipped her coffee. "I have documentation proving my strategies saved the company. Plus, I've identified some irregularities in Daniel's recent investments." "What kind of irregularities?" "The kind the SEC would find very interesting." Diane leaned forward. "Are you willing to destroy him?" Vanessa considered this. "I'm willing to take what's mine. What happens to Daniel depends entirely on him." Meanwhile, Vanessa cultivated a closer relationship with Natalie, mentoring her under the guise of professional development. The younger woman, perhaps driven by guilt, eagerly accepted. "I really appreciate you taking me under your wing," Natalie said during one of their lunch meetings. "Most women in your position wouldn't be so supportive." "What position is that?" Vanessa asked mildly. Natalie flushed. "Senior executive. There aren't many women at the top." "No, there aren't," Vanessa agreed. "Which is why we need to be strategic about how we get there and how we stay there." She used these meetings to subtly extract information about Daniel's plans and to assess whether Natalie was merely a symptom of her husband's midlife crisis or something more calculating. The truth, as it emerged, was somewhere in between. Natalie was ambitious and opportunistic, but she'd also fallen for Daniel's practiced charm and promises of a future together. "He talks about starting fresh," Natalie confided after too many glasses of wine one evening. "Building something new with someone who understands him." "And do you understand him?" Natalie nodded earnestly. "He needs someone who puts him first, who appreciates his vision." Vanessa smiled, thinking of the countless nights she'd stayed up revising Daniel's visionary proposals to make them financially viable. Everyone needs that. At home, the charade continued. They occupied the same space with practiced politeness, like actors performing domestic contentment while the audience had long gone home. During a rare shared breakfast, Daniel broached the subject obliquely. "I've been thinking about our future," he began, not meeting her eyes. "Have you?" Vanessa buttered her toast with deliberate care. "We've both changed over the years, grown in different directions." She waited, watching him struggle with words that should have been difficult but clearly weren't. "Maybe we should consider," he faltered. "A divorce?" she supplied calmly. Daniel's head snapped up, surprise and relief washing over his features. "You've thought about it too?" "I've thought about many things lately." She stood, gathering her plate. "If that's what you want, I won't stand in your way." His relief was palpable and slightly offensive. "I just want us both to be happy." "Of course you do," she replied, her tone neutral. "Why don't you have your lawyer draw up the papers?" "We can keep this civilized," Daniel nodded eagerly. "I was hoping you'd see it that way. You deserve to find happiness too, Vanessa." She smiled at his transparent attempt at absolution. "How thoughtful of you." Later that evening, she called Diane. "He's making his move. Time to activate our plan." The divorce papers arrived via courier on a Tuesday morning, the same morning that Vanessa executed the first phase of her counteroffensive. While Daniel was in a board meeting, she met with James Harrington, their largest client and a longtime friend of Daniel's father. "I'm concerned about the direction of some recent investments," she explained, showing him documentation of Daniel's increasingly risky strategies. "I wanted to discuss this with you directly, out of respect for our long relationship." Harrington frowned at the figures. "These allocations aren't what we agreed to. They're far too aggressive for my portfolio. I discovered the discrepancies during our quarterly audit. Daniel approved these changes personally. Without consulting me?" Harrington's face flushed with anger. "We've worked together for 20 years. His father would never have done this. I've prepared an alternative strategy." Vanessa slid a folder across the desk. "One that aligns with your original risk tolerance while still achieving your growth objectives." By the time she left Harrington's office, she had secured his support for the board vote that would determine the company's future leadership. That evening, she received a text from May. "Saw Daniel at La Mer last night with a blonde. Too young for him. You okay?" Vanessa responded, "Better than okay. Having champagne tonight. Want to join?" Which led to the scene in their penthouse, with the divorce papers signed and Daniel's stunned expression as he realized the battle for their marriage had ended, but the war for his company was just beginning. "What exactly do you mean about the company?" he asked, his confidence faltering. "I mean, I've spent the last 3 months securing the loyalty of our top 7 clients, who represent 60% of our portfolio." Vanessa refilled her champagne. "I've also been documenting your ethical violations in the Kingsford and Martinez accounts." Daniel's face paled. "Those were calculated risks, not violations." "The SEC may see it differently." She shrugged. especially the part where you diverted funds to that shell company in the Caymans. How did you know? I built our security protocols, Daniel. Did you think I wouldn't have backdoor access? She leaned forward. Here's my offer. I get controlling interest in Mitchell Financial Group. You keep the Mitchell name on the door. And I don't send my documentation to the authorities. Daniel's face contorted with anger. You're blackmailing me? I'm negotiating. Vanessa's voice remained calm. Something you taught me to do very well. Consider it my parting gift to Natalie. You'll still have your freedom and enough money to keep her happy, at least until the next 20-something catches your eye. You vindictive bitch, he snarled, his composed facade crumbling. I built this company. No, your grandfather built it. Your father nearly destroyed it. And I saved it. Vanessa stood, signaling the end of their discussion. You have until tomorrow morning to decide. After that, the board receives my evidence. As she walked toward their bedroom, Daniel called after her. You think they'll believe you over me? My name is on the building. Vanessa turned, allowing herself one final moment of honesty. The sad thing is, I would have given you everything if you'd just been brave enough to tell me the truth from the beginning. But you were a coward, Daniel. And cowards don't get to win. The Mitchell Financial Group boardroom crackled with tension the following morning. 10 board members sat around the polished table, their expressions ranging from confusion to apprehension. Daniel sat at the head, his usual confidence visibly diminished. Vanessa chose a seat directly opposite him. I've called this emergency meeting, Daniel began, his voice strained, to address some transitions within the company. James Harrington, the senior board member, interrupted. Before you continue, Daniel, I'd like to express my concern about the investment strategies you've implemented without board approval. Daniel's eyes darted to Vanessa, who maintained a neutral expression. James, we can discuss portfolio adjustments later. Today's agenda is about leadership, Vanessa finished for him. Specifically, a motion to reassign controlling interest of Mitchell Financial Group. Murmurs rippled through the room. Daniel's knuckles whitened as he gripped the edge of the table. That's not... I second the motion, said Eleanor Pratt, another board member and one of Vanessa's carefully cultivated allies. In light of recent information regarding unauthorized risk exposure, Daniel stood abruptly. This is absurd. I've run this company successfully for 15 years. With significant help, James noted dryly. Vanessa, would you care to present your evidence? For the next 30 minutes, Vanessa methodically outlined Daniel's ethical lapses, risky investment strategies, and the subsequent client concerns. She presented documentation showing how her interventions had repeatedly saved the firm from Daniel's increasingly erratic decisions. Furthermore, she concluded, I've secured commitments from our 7 largest clients that they will remain with Mitchell Financial Group under my leadership. Otherwise, they're prepared to take their portfolios elsewhere. The board members exchanged glances. Losing those clients would devastate the company. Daniel, now visibly sweating, attempted to regain control. This is nothing but a vindictive attack from a bitter soon-to-be ex-wife. Vanessa and I are divorcing, which clearly clouds her judgment and motivations. Actually, Vanessa replied calmly, our personal situation has brought clarity to my professional assessment. I've ignored concerning patterns for too long out of loyalty. She turned to address the board directly. I'm not asking you to choose between us because of our marriage. I'm asking you to choose based on who has demonstrated better judgment and commitment to this company's future. Eleanor leaned forward. I move to vote on reassigning controlling interest to Vanessa Mitchell, with Daniel retaining a seat on the board and his family name on the company. I object. Daniel slammed his hand on the table. This is my company, my family legacy. James Harrington's voice cut through the tension. Then perhaps you should have honored that legacy with better stewardship, Daniel. I second the motion. Let's vote. The result was decisive, 8-2 in favor of Vanessa assuming control. Daniel stared at his former colleagues in disbelief. You'll regret this, all of you. As the board members filed out, Daniel remained seated, seemingly unable to process what had just occurred. Vanessa gathered her documents, preparing to leave. Why? Daniel's voice was barely audible. Why not just take a settlement and walk away? Why destroy everything? Vanessa paused by the door. I didn't destroy anything, Daniel. I preserved it, from you. This was never about the company for you, he accused. This was revenge. No, she corrected him. This was justice. I earned my place here through years of work and sacrifice, not by sleeping with the boss. She allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. Although I'm sure Natalie will be thrilled to know that approach is an option, Daniel's face contorted. Leave her out of this, gladly. In fact, I've approved her transfer to our London office, effective immediately. She has potential but needs better influences. You can't do that. I just did. The board authorized all personnel decisions as part of my new position. Vanessa straightened her jacket. Don't worry, I've arranged a generous relocation package. She can decide whether London with job security is preferable to unemployment in Seattle with you. Daniel stood, desperation evident in his voice. Vanessa, please. We can work something out. I made a mistake. No, you made a choice, she corrected him. Several, actually. And now you get to live with the consequences. She opened the door but turned back one last time. Oh, and Daniel, I expect your desk cleared by 5. Your new office on the 3rd floor will be ready tomorrow. In the elevator, Vanessa finally allowed herself to feel the full weight of what had just transpired. Not triumph, as she'd expected, but a complex mixture of vindication and grief for the years wasted loving a man who had never truly seen her value. Her phone buzzed with a text from Natalie. Is it true about London? Daniel says you're forcing me out. Vanessa typed carefully. Not forcing. Offering. Your choice entirely. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then reappeared. Can we talk? In person? My office. 30 minutes. When Natalie entered, her usual confidence was noticeably diminished. She perched on the edge of the visitor's chair, hands twisting nervously in her lap. I suppose I should congratulate you, she began tentatively. That's not necessary, Vanessa replied. I assume Daniel's filled you in on the changes? Natalie nodded. He said you're sending me to London to punish him, to separate us. Is that what you believe? I don't know what to believe anymore. Natalie's composure cracked slightly. I thought he was going to leave you months ago. He promised. Men like Daniel are full of promises, Vanessa said, not unkindly. It's the follow-through that's problematic. Why London? Why not just fire me? Vanessa leaned back in her chair. Because despite your poor judgment in personal matters, you have genuine talent. The London position is a promotion, with a substantial salary increase and mentorship from Elaine Wright, our European director. Confusion crossed Natalie's face. You're helping me? After everything? I'm making a business decision. Your analytical skills are valuable to this firm. Your relationship with my soon-to-be ex-husband is irrelevant to that assessment. Natalie studied her with newfound respect. He never really knew you, did he? No, Vanessa agreed. He saw what he wanted to see. First the supportive wife, then the disposable obstacle. He never saw me as a complete person with my own ambitions and capabilities. And me? What do you see when you look at me? Vanessa considered this. Someone at a crossroads. You can define yourself by your relationship with Daniel, or you can define yourself by your own accomplishments. London offers you the chance for the latter. Tears welled in Natalie's eyes. I did love him. Or thought I did. I know. Vanessa handed her a tissue. That's the tragedy of Daniel Mitchell. He inspires love he doesn't deserve and can't return. She pushed a folder across the desk. Your transfer paperwork. Take the weekend to decide. After Natalie left, Vanessa stood by the window overlooking the city she'd adopted as her own 20 years ago. Seattle sparkled in the rare sunlight, the water of Puget Sound glittering like possibilities. Her office phone buzzed. Mr. Reynolds on line 1, her assistant announced. Vanessa squared her shoulders and picked up the phone. Howard, good to hear from you. Yes, there have been some organizational changes. Let me walk you through what this means for your portfolio. Life continued. Business continued. And Vanessa Mitchell, no longer defined by her husband's name or limitations, Continued, too. 1 year later. The anniversary party for Mitchell Chen, financial group, renamed after Vanessa had finalized her divorce, filled the Seattle Art Museum's sculpture garden with the city's business elite. String lights twinkled overhead as guests mingled between modern art installations, champagne flutes catching the last golden rays of an unseasonably warm October sunset. Vanessa circulated through the crowd in a deep blue gown, accepting congratulations on the firm's most profitable year to date. Her hair was shorter now, her smile more genuine, her posture unburdened by the weight of her former marriage. "Quite the triumph," came a familiar voice behind her. James Harrington approached, martini in hand. "The quarterly reports exceeded even my optimistic projections. We had a good team," Vanessa acknowledged, "and excellent clients who trusted our process." "Speaking of teams," James lowered his voice, "I saw Daniel last week in New York. He's working for Bradshaw and Associates now. Junior position." Vanessa absorbed this information with equanimity. "I hope he finds what he's looking for there." "You're more generous than I would be," James observed. "After what he tried to do," she shrugged slightly. "The best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's thriving without them." Across the garden, she spotted May arriving with her husband, waving enthusiastically. Vanessa excused herself from James and made her way toward her sister. "Look at you." May embraced her warmly. "CEO looks good on you?" "It feels good," Vanessa admitted. "Most days, anyway. Any regrets?" May asked quietly, knowing how difficult the past year had been beneath Vanessa's composed exterior. Vanessa considered the question seriously. "I regret not seeing the truth sooner. I regret years spent diminishing myself to accommodate his ego." She took a sip of champagne. "But I don't regret how it ended. Or where I am now." Her phone chimed with an email notification, one she'd been anticipating. She glanced at the screen and smiled. "Good news?" May asked. "The London office quarterly results. Natalie's team has exceeded targets by 17%. Natalie?" May raised an eyebrow. "As in, former assistant, yes." Vanessa tucked her phone away. "Current rising star in our European division. You kept her? Even after—" "I kept her talent," Vanessa corrected. Her personal choices were her own business, but her professional potential was the company's asset. "I don't believe in wasting valuable resources." May shook her head in amazement. "You're something else, you know that? Most women would have fired her on principle. Most women haven't had to fight as hard as I have to be judged on merit rather than relationships." Vanessa's gaze drifted toward the podium, where the evening's presentations would soon begin. "Besides, we both learned valuable lessons from Daniel Mitchell." "And what lesson was that?" Vanessa smiled, a genuine expression that reached her eyes. "That the people who underestimate you give you your greatest opportunities to exceed expectations." Later that evening, as the party wound down, Vanessa found a moment of solitude on the garden's terrace overlooking Elliott Bay. The lights of ferries and sailboats moved across the dark water like meandering thoughts. "Ms. Chen?" She turned to find a man she didn't recognize, tall, with silver-streaked dark hair and intelligent eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Michael Kwan," he introduced himself. "Cascade Venture Partners. We haven't had the pleasure." "Ah, Mr. Kwan. Your firm has been making interesting moves in the biotech space." Vanessa extended her hand. "Thank you for coming tonight. I wouldn't have missed it." His handshake was firm but not aggressive. "Your reputation precedes you? Good things, I hope." "Impressive things," he clarified. "Though the story of how you transformed Mitchell Financial has taken on almost mythic proportions in certain circles." Vanessa laughed softly. "Myths tend to simplify complex situations." "True, but sometimes they capture essential truths." Michael leaned against the terrace railing beside her. "Would you be open to discussing a potential collaboration between our firms? I have some ideas that might interest you." "Professional ideas, I assume?" Vanessa asked, a hint of wariness in her tone. Michael's eyes crinkled with understanding. "Exclusively professional. Though I'd be lying if I said I wasn't also interested in the person behind the success story." The person behind the story is still writing it, Vanessa replied, but her expression softened. But I'm always open to interesting business proposals. My office next week? I'll have my assistant call yours. He straightened, preparing to leave. Congratulations again on an exceptional year. Ms. Chen, you've built something remarkable from difficult circumstances. As he walked away, Vanessa turned back to the water, allowing herself to acknowledge the quiet flutter of possibility, not just professionally, but personally as well. Her phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. Heard about your success from mutual friends. We should talk. Dinner next week? Vanessa read the message twice, recognizing the familiar pattern. Daniel reaching out only when he needed something or when her success made him reconsider her value. She typed a response, then deleted it. Typed another, deleted that too. Finally, she settled on the truth. There's nothing left to say, Daniel. I wish you well, but my answer is no. She put her phone away without waiting for his response and took a deep breath of the cool night air. The scent of salt water and possibility filled her lungs as she gazed at the Seattle skyline, her city, her achievement, her life. The company had thrived under her leadership. She had reclaimed not just her professional worth but her personal power. And the woman who had once defined herself as Daniel Mitchell's wife now stood completely on her own, stronger, wiser, and finally, authentically herself. Vanessa Chen lifted her champagne glass in a silent toast to the woman she had become, the one Daniel had never truly seen, but who had always been there, waiting to emerge from his shadow into her own light. She had agreed to his divorce, but made him pay for his betrayal in the currency he valued most: power, prestige, and professional standing. Not out of vindictiveness, but out of a fundamental belief that she deserved the life and recognition she had earned. And in the end, that was the sweetest revenge of all. Not the taking, but the becoming. Becoming the woman who no longer needed revenge at all.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.